million ad spend per year. He's working with 7-8-figure e-commerce brands mostly, and he's also teaching his best stuff, right? And I think that's an amazing attitude. I'm super stoked to have him here on stage. Please, with a big round of applause, welcome Nico.
Thanks, Phil, and what's going on, everyone? Cheers, Savannah. That was a super tough act to follow, so hopefully we can try and match up. We'll see how we go. So, guys, today we're going to be talking about something completely unoriginal and something that you've all heard of plenty of times, Facebook ads, once again. But we're going to talk about it in a way, and we're going to put a spin on it such that you guys will be able to leave the room at the end of this speech and spend an absolutely monstrosity amount worth of Facebook ads profitably every single day. So we're going to be talking about our scaling systems and pressure testing our 20K per day spend systems for the annual Q1 Slam. So before we actually get into it, I'm Nico. I own an agency and have been doing this for a couple of years now. And in our agency, we have an absolutely incredible team of about 13 or 14 people. So before, when Phil said, I manage 10 million plus a year in spend or whatever it was, that's not just me. That's my absolutely phenomenal team, and I would not be able to do it without them there in the crowd. They're insane. So yeah, some of those guys, we've got one that's even spent up to 100 grand a day on a single brand. So on top of that, I've also run and managed and owned my own brands in the past, 7-figure brands. So everything that I tell you today, not only will we have spent and managed our own clients' budgets, but we've spent our own dollars on our campaigns. So we practice what we preach, and what I teach you is seated in my own experience, spending my own money and putting my own money on the line. So probably about 6 months ago, I'd say, we went through a really intense kind of growth period for the last 3 to 6 months in our agency, and as a result of that, we were onboarding media buyers really quickly to meet up with the new demand of all these clients, right? And the result of that was, the typical stereotype agency. They grew too quickly, and agencies can't get results when they start to scale. We wanted to challenge that status quo, and we wanted to ensure that we were actually able to maintain the high level of results that our reputation was built upon, but do it at scale and bring in new media buyers to be able to do it pretty much from day one. So me and my lead media buyer sat down and we crafted what we call our scaling ad systems. Okay? And these systems are designed specifically for these media buyers so that once they come on board, they're going to be able to manage huge amounts of spend profitably and just as well as someone that's been trained for the last 6 to 12 months. So how does that actually tie back into you guys? These systems being built for new team members so that they can rapidly scale clients' campaigns. Once you guys learn them, you guys should be able to walk out of the room spending these huge amounts of money. Not to mention, every year we kind of see this thing where in Q1, Facebook makes a bunch of changes to their platform. The algorithm changes, the ads change, and all of the results go down. And that's when we see, in the ClickFunnels and the ad buyers and the ad house groups and stuff like that, everyone starts complaining about their ROAS dropping. Same time every single year, and we're going to talk about why that happens and how to actually survive that this year, so that come the new year, you guys don't struggle from that as well. So, like I said, the solution of that problem that we were having, onboarding a bunch of new media buyers, looks something like this. This is the framework that we came up with to actually solve this problem, and it looks pretty intense and wacky. You guys don't need to take photos. I'll give you a Google Drive link at the end just so that you guys can download all of this. And we're going to go through the whole framework. You can see there's some yellow tags around the outside. Those are notes based on things like our creative, our exact rules that we use, that we scale them. We'll also go through, and I'll give you guys that also at the end. So before we get into it, I just want to highlight a difference between media buying strategy and media buying tactics. So it's really important to recognize and understand this. Where media buying tactics are the tiny little bits of text that you can see on this page. It's things like how to set up your manual bidding and how to set up the specific targeting in your campaigns and stuff like that. Then on the flip side of that, we've got the strategy, and that's effectively the entire customer journey or the entire customer flow, right? It's going from the top of funnel and sending those customers into the middle of funnel and the bottom of funnel, and then from the bottom of funnel, running specific ads for your existing customers, okay? And as you go more and more on a micro level, the leverage that you get out of the results with your advertising will get smaller and smaller. So what I mean by that is if you make big changes on the strategic level, you're going to get a much bigger result than if you make changes on the tactical level. And that ties into something that I really want to highlight to you guys. Media buying nowadays, and just like Savannah was saying, media buying nowadays doesn't come down, or the result in the media buying doesn't come down so much to the stuff that you do in Ads Manager on a tactical level, as much as it does outside, with your landing pages, your creatives, and your offer. That stuff is so much more important. If you haven't dialed that in, this stuff is not going to mean anything. And I say that because a lot of marketers and a lot of media buyers and e-com brand owners and stuff like that, they try and solve their problems by clicking around in Ads Manager, when in reality, we have to be looking to creatives and we have to be looking to landing pages. So we'll go through that stuff as well. Now, as you can see here on the left, we've got our top of funnel. That's the cold traffic or the acquisition campaigns. And we spend about 70% of our budget here, okay? That's where we want to acquire our customers. And while a lot of people say, you should be willing to lose money on the front end, I am very much still an advocate of profit first. So we want to at least be breaking even on the front end for one reason and one reason only: aggressive scale. If you guys are spending 10, 20 grand a day and you're not at least breaking even on the front end, you're going to find it very difficult to scale. So we do want really salesy creatives still, and real direct response creatives, even when marketing with e-commerce, so that we can break even, and then we monetize on the back end with our middle, bottom of funnel and our post-purchase campaigns. So this is what the top of funnel campaign looks like, right? There are 4 different stages. We'll get into each and every one of them one by one. And this is how we set up our campaign. So on the left here, you can see our initial testing phase. Okay, you guys should be able to read that. Now what we do in the beginning is we set up 2 CBOs, right? And within these CBOs, we put a mixture of lookalike audiences and interest-based audiences. The main thing that you want to remember here is you want to just keep your audience sizes pretty similar, because again, like the last speech, it's all about the algorithm and letting the algorithm optimize. And if we put wildly different sized audiences, it's going to mess with the optimization of that and the delivery, and we're going to struggle to get the results that we're looking for. So make sure you're setting it up with similar sized audiences throughout each ad set. And then on the ad level, we use something called dynamic creatives, which a lot of you guys probably know what they are, but to those that do not know, dynamic creatives, we can put a number of different variants in terms of headlines, copy, descriptions, images, videos, and Facebook is going to create a bunch of different combinations, and it's going to spit it out and start delivering that to the audience. Okay? This I love for a number of reasons. Firstly, it really helps with ad fatigue. Okay? When you have so many different combinations, and you give Facebook all of these different options for the algorithm to choose, the algorithm to deliver what it thinks is best based on the data that Facebook has, because we only have like a tiny percentage of the data that Facebook has on its users. When we give Facebook those options, it's going to deliver and work much better. And once we start delivering and they're seeing all these different variants, our ads are going to fatigue much slower, because we can crank up the frequency and have people see our ads multiple times since they're seeing those different variants. Same deal with our retargeting, our middle, bottom of funnel, and our post-purchase stuff. If we put dynamic creatives in there where we've got smaller closed audiences, that's where we can really crank up the frequency. We don't have to worry too much about fatigue where we otherwise would have, because those audiences are smaller. So from there, from our initial testing, right? So we get those live, we test them, we take the results, and then we move them into the middle stage. And that second stage is what we call the narrowing stage. And this narrowing stage, real simple, all we do is we take the 5 best winners and we throw them all into the narrowing stage in terms of ad sets. And then on the creative level, we actually go in, have a look at the breakdowns by creative, the creative breakdowns, so that we can have a look at them by variation, and we put the top variations into this stage. So basically all the stuff that we've gotten from our test, we've just narrowed it all down into one campaign, and this typically works quite well, right? With that, we begin to scale it up, and we'll talk about scaling in just a sec. However, if we do have a couple of duds, which sometimes happens, we move on to a second stage, and we just replace those duds with new campaigns and run them again, and typically that solves the problem for us. Finally, we move over to the third stage. Now this third stage is going to be a duplicate of the campaigns that we've already found that are winners, okay? So in that middle stage, we're going to begin scaling those up, and then we create what's called a mega CBO. And in this mega CBO, we want at least 10 ad sets. It works extremely well because, you know, Facebook's got its whole rule of 5, and we found that once we put 10 to even 20 ad sets or more, works super well. And again, it's just all of our winners that we've found up until this point. The main difference is actually on the creative level here. So we're going to take all of the post IDs of the really high-performing dynamic creatives, and we're going to throw them in and actually start building up social proof. Keep in mind, we do keep a bunch of different creative variations, 5 to 6 in here, because what's going to happen is, again, when Facebook identifies that one of those creatives isn't performing as well as it was, particularly when you're starting to spend higher budgets, it's going to start delivering to the second and the third performers on its own. So then you don't have to worry too much about that ad fatigue. A lot of people assume that when they start running ads and they've got 5 different ad variations in an ad set, they assume that the ones that perform not as well as the top performers don't work, when in fact it's just relative and they're just not working as well, but they're just dormant there, and Facebook's going to use them later on when it needs it and when the top performers start to deteriorate and fatigue. So that's the top of funnel and how we test at the top of the funnel. And then once things are working, what we want to do is we want to start optimizing with rules. Okay. Actually, before we get into that, I'll just have a chat to you guys about budgets. So as you can see here, we've got a $2,000 budget and a $500 budget. Basically, the optimal budget or daily budget we've found is setting our daily budgets to 2 to 4 times the CPA per ad set. So what I mean by that is if you've got 5 ad sets and your target CPA is $10, we want to set it to at least $20 per ad set, and because it's a CBO and we've got 5 ad sets, we're going to want the total budget to be $100. So you guys can then punch in your numbers and your target CPAs and adapt this model so that it works for you. Reason why that's awesome is because, or the optimal budget to spend per day is because we get enough data on a daily basis so that we can actually make well-informed decisions, and so that that data is statistically significant enough to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis and optimize. Far too often I see people that turn things off way too early, and the fact of the matter is if you're not spending at least 2 to 4 times per ad set, you're probably not giving the algorithm enough data to optimize, but also these data sets are not statistically significant to scale, to optimize. So then we move on to our scaling rules. Now, what we want to do with these rules is, and a question I get a lot by clients and stuff like that is, why do you actually use rules? Are you being lazy? Do you want to just, kick your feet up and automate things so that you guys don't have to worry about it? The fact of the matter is, with rules, it lets us manage and optimize campaigns on a much, much, much more intricate scale or level than we would be able to as humans, right? So by setting up these automated rules, and we use Facebook rules now, we used to use RevealBot. By setting up these automated rules, we're able to save a heap of money by cutting back on what's not working throughout the day and really scaling up what is working. So as you can see there, our optimization rules, we've got our stop loss on the ad set level, and if an ad set spends $200 throughout the day without sales, we just turn it off. Okay. Now we do something quite interesting with the optimization rules, where we used to optimize based on just a flatline rule. We used to say, with the example of a $50 CPA, we used to say, if we're not getting at least a $50 CPA, we just want to turn it off. Now we're using a step ladder so that we can give Facebook a little bit more breathing space, because CBOs do need a bit more space. We've found with our tests, when we start running CBOs, the first couple of days, they actually don't perform as well as ad sets, or ad set budgets, but then after a couple of days, once it gets the chance to optimize, it way outperforms the ad set budget campaigns. So by setting up the rules this way, when you spend over $1,000 and the CPA is greater than 65, then we turn off either the campaign or ad set, depending on how you want to set it up. And then stepping up, so once we've got more data, once the CPA is $55, so you'll notice it's a bit stricter and it's still above our target CPA, then we turn off the campaign. And finally, we actually hit our target CPA for optimization once we're spending at least $2,000. Once we've spent at least $2,000 on that particular campaign. And then of course we've also got a safety rule. So that safety rule is for delayed attribution and delayed reporting. Basically, as you may or may not know, Facebook, it reports on spend first, and then it reports on the result of that spend 15 to 30 minutes later. So we want to make sure that we're not turning things off too early, and if we do have delayed attribution, we are turning back on a campaign if it becomes unprofitable. So if it's spent over $1,000 and the CPA is profitable, then we're going to be turning it back on. Now, with the content at each one of these stages, there are 3 types of content that you guys will know of and know well. We've got at the top of the funnel, we've got our very conventional stuff, and that's the really hypey e-com videos that are a hard sell and they sell the features and benefits, and they do still work great. But there's a better way of doing it, and we'll get through that in a sec. At the middle of the funnel, we've got our user-generated content, customer reviews, quite standard, and at the bottom of the funnel, we've got conventional retargeting content. Hey, we saw that you left your cart, you abandoned your cart, come back and complete your checkout. Right? And we've put a new spin on these, which we'll get to. So in 2019, what we found really successful at that top of the funnel with the content is following this structure. First, we want to actually identify and call out the problem to the users. Okay? It may be a problem that they didn't even know they were having, but then they'll resonate and they'll instantly stop scrolling and look at your ad because it speaks directly to them instead of just selling a product straight up. Because everyone's becoming numb to ads. It's interruption marketing with Facebook, so we really need to hook them by calling out their problem. Secondly, we actually take that problem and we aggravate it. We talk about how severe the pain points are and how it affects their life before finally presenting our product as a solution to that problem. So I'll draw an example for you guys. We had a client that was a supplement brand. They're a children's vitamin gummies, and they're a subscription product. And they had an average order value of about $40 with a CPA of $65. So if you do the maths, it doesn't work, right? Because they were a subscription, they knew that it took about 2 months to earn their money back, and then they would start being profitable. And we actually made the suggestion to structure the content this way. And what the ads looked like were, they identified the problem. They said, hey, is your child suffering from behavioral issues, trouble focusing, getting in trouble at school? Well, actually, these problems are just symptoms of a much bigger issue, and that's core nutritional deficiencies. What parents don't know is that these core nutritional deficiencies actually cause these behavioral issues, and we have a product that has all of these nutrients that they need so that once they start taking it, then the core problem ceases to be an issue, right? So you can see how they follow that structure. That brought them from a $65 CPA to a $25 CPA. They're profitable on the front end, and now they can begin to scale because they have that profitability and that positive cash flow. Then in 2020, we get into the pre-purchase experience, which is something we came up with, and we'll talk about that also in a sec. So at that top of the funnel, just a note on the mega CBOs that you see on the side there, we also use a software called Magix that's really, really great for that. It lets us set up a bunch of audiences that couldn't otherwise be set up with Facebook. So we get to test very, very rapidly and aggressively, and it sets it all up for us, which is really nice. So then we get to the middle of funnel, right? Here we want to put our top of the funnel content there, all of that problem-oriented content, and we want to slam them with what's called the pre-purchase experience. Okay? So let's talk about surviving Q1 in 2020 and that pre-purchase experience. Now, in Q1 of 2018, we saw this massive strike where Facebook started introducing feedback scores and they started surveying customers, and it was a very reactive way of ensuring that Facebook users are not ripped off by crappy advertisers and stuff like that. So effectively what we saw is all the dropshippers get wiped out. I had friends that went out of business because of it. It was insane. And along with that, the following year, in Q1 of this year, we saw an introduction of these quality scores and the ranks, and also a shift towards having much better ad quality. So we're seeing Facebook slowly transition from an emphasis on post-purchase experience and customers performing or customers getting a good service or a good product delivered to them, to actually bringing that good experience on platform. In Q3 this year, we saw that continue with the 3 lines of text in ad copies, and also limiting creative sizes to 4x5 max, where they used to be 9x16, I believe, story sizes. So what Facebook's doing here is they're looking for extra ad real estate. All the ads are getting shorter. They're running out of inventory, and the only way they can get more inventory is having users spend more time on the platform and by making their ads shorter. So all this is in a bid to perpetuate and build upon the best user experience possible, right? So we want to actually feed into this this vision that Facebook is having of having an incredible platform where everyone spends heaps of time by delivering the appropriate content and delivering that pre-purchase experience. So in Q1 of 2020, we're going to see that aggressive shift towards the pre-purchase user experience. The signs are all there. We've seen the trajectory coming. And that'll involve giving your customers the absolute best on-platform experience. So what we want to do with our content is we want it to be highly engaging, okay? It's going to be user-generated content, but it's going to be very different to the user-generated content that you guys are running at the moment and that most brands are running. Because at the end of the day, everyone knows that when they leave a website, they're just going to start seeing these iPhone camera testimonial videos that talk about how great the product is and how great the shipping times were. People are becoming numb to that, and it doesn't mean much anymore. So what we need now is human connection, because that's conducive to providing the best possible experience to Facebook users. What we want to do is we want to, with our creatives, give the user the experience of buying the product before they've actually bought it. We want to use really in-depth unboxing videos. We want to do taste testing videos with our supplements. That way the user knows exactly what they're getting and how they're going to get it once they order. So what that looks like, and to illustrate it with the same example, the same supplement client, right? These guys, they got their parents to effectively survey their children sitting in front of like the kitchen counter, and the kids were actually taste testing the supplements and talking about how much they loved it. It was a super cute video, and by doing that, it's a completely new take and a complete flip on what we saw before being just the iPhone testimonial videos. And the result of that is Facebook loves rewarding this content because they see the engagement, they see that you're delivering a better on-platform experience, and that resulted in the lowest CPAs we've ever seen, and the CPMs also dropped significantly. Of course, the subsequent result of that is more conversions, more profit, and everyone's happy, all you advertisers make more money, which is great. Plus, this content actually tells the prospect, like I said, exactly what they're buying into, reframing the user before they even land on your page and increasing the conversion rates on your page, which is what we want to do at the end of the day. So I really believe that and taking that content-centric approach is how to survive Q1 in 2020, because we see it every year. The dropshippers, the ones that don't really focus and the ones that aren't really customer first are the ones that typically get wiped out when this slam comes. So by creating content like this, we're not going to feel the effects of it as much, and we're going to be okay. So now we're going to move on to the middle of funnel structure. Now with this structure, again, we want to use a CBO. The audiences with the middle of funnel are pretty typical. We want to run video viewers 50%, video viewers 75%, Facebook page engagers, Instagram engagers, page followers, Instagram followers. There's heaps of different audiences that you can test. You just want to test them all and find the most optimal audience to run at that middle of funnel. And then of course with dynamic creative again. Because that dynamic creative, like I said, when we have this smaller audience at the middle of the funnel, we want to make sure that we can crank up that frequency without the ads fatiguing too much, and dynamic creatives are a really great way of doing that. So from the, and by the way guys, as a side note, down the bottom on the bottom left, we have all of the possible custom audiences that you can create. There are hundreds of, well, probably even thousands of different combinations. So when I give you guys the download, you'll get that as well, so that you can actually test these audiences at each funnel stage. So now, the bottom of funnel, okay? This is where our hot traffic is. This is the guys that are being retargeted, okay? So at this stage, this is where we want to target everyone that has been to the website. At the top of the funnel, we want to exclude everyone that's been to the website, but we want to take it one step further, and we also want to exclude anyone that's engaged with our Facebook page, anyone that's engaged with our Instagram page, engaged with any of our ads, exclude all of the warm audiences. Because what a lot of people do is they'll just exclude the purchases, which logically makes sense, but the way Facebook works is it's always going to go for the low-hanging fruit. So if you're running ads for a dog product, for example, and you're targeting the interest dog and it has 5 million people in the audience, chances are that a lot of those 5 million people are actually going to be in your retargeting audiences. Facebook is going to go straight for those guys first. It's going to convert really well. It's going to give you a good perceived cost per acquisition, when in fact you're actually just retargeting and hitting the same people that your middle and bottom of funnel ads are hitting. So we want to make sure we're excluding those to get good, to actually be truly acquiring customers, right? And the result of that is you won't have the problem anymore where, these might sound familiar, you might scale past, say, $1 or $2 a day, and then as soon as you try and spend more, your CPA just skyrockets. Or you set up campaigns every 2 or 3 days, and every time that you set them up, run them for 2 days, they just die after 72 hours. That's because Facebook is just trying to go beyond that warm audience within your acquisition campaigns, and by excluding them from the beginning, we kind of circumvent this whole issue, and we start hitting cold traffic straight away so that we can get that stability out of our campaigns. So now with the bottom of funnel, we want to include the pre-purchase experience content in here, along with our conventional retargeting content. So to summarize the content at each stage, at the top of the funnel, like we mentioned, we're going to have our conventional e-commerce sort of ads, and then we're also going to have the problem-oriented ads. In the middle of the funnel, we're going to have the user-generated content, we're going to have the pre-purchase experience, and then at the bottom of the funnel, we're also going to have the pre-purchase experience because it works extremely well there, and we're going to have our conventional ad creatives. So with these bottom of funnel ads, we're going to set them up again in a similar way. We set them up with CBOs, and then our audiences there. We have our website visitors 1 to 3 days, add to cart 1 to 3 days, initiate checkout, and then you can test different time ranges and see what works best. If you've got a higher ticket product, we typically see that the time range between the first touch point and the conversion is a little bit longer than if you were to sell, say, a $9 product. When you're retargeting those guys, if they haven't converted within the first week of the first touch point, then typically they're not going to convert. So tailor it to the product that you're selling and the ticket value of the product that you're selling. We have our CBO with the audience, as I mentioned. Again, dynamic creative, so that's kind of like the theme of the day. For the same reason, fatigue and high frequency with these closed, small audiences. And then we replicate the same thing with DPAs, with dynamic product ads. And they're great because they'll actually deliver, if you guys have got a large catalog of products, they'll deliver the specific products that customers were looking for or browsing at on your website and show those ads to those customers, which make it much more likely to convert, so you get great results out of that. So that's the bottom of funnel. Then finally, the last stage of the system is our post-purchase or our existing customers, right? Our retention campaigns. This is another one that I don't see too many people doing, and I see a lot of people neglecting, not only with Facebook, but you also want to be emailing your existing customers and your loyal customers and stuff like that, because if you take care of your customers, they'll take care of you, and that's where you're going to get the best CPAs, right? And the highest return on ad spend. So the way we set that up is, again, CBOs and DPAs, right? And this audience is much more simple and straightforward. We've got our purchases, right? Different time ranges, once again. Test, figure out what works best and run with that. And then we can also run ads to our email list, of course, by uploading that to Ads Manager. Again, CBOs and DPAs both work extremely well. And throwing an offer in there is really great too, particularly for your more loyal customers. Okay? So if you want to create an audience where you've got customers that have done more than 2 orders, that's a really great way of getting a good return, because these guys have spent with you before more than once, and they're going to spend with you again and again. It's just a matter now of staying top of mind and being there when they're ready to purchase again. So guys, to summarize all of that, we want to use rules to micromanage our campaigns and optimize, right? And then we want to begin scaling. Something I forgot to mention was when we do scale, we set our rules in such a way that, we scale quite aggressively. The beauty of CBO is it's much less sensitive to changes in budget than ad set budget campaigns were. So what we can do is we can increase or double the budget 3 to 4 times a day and generate a very similar result to when we were spending at low scale. Of course, the CPA is going to increase a little bit, but that's when we've then got our optimization rules that I mentioned earlier to trim away the fat on those campaigns. So increase the budget or double the budget 3 to 4 times a day works great, and that can take a $1,000 campaign from 1K to 2K to 4K to 8K to even 16K per day. So you can see how you can scale these campaigns extremely quickly. Plus, when you've got those mega CBOs in there, all of that data and all of those inputs that you're giving to Facebook and all the different options really feed the algorithm to support and sustain these high budgets. Facebook is becoming more and more user-centric, as we mentioned. So by using that problem-oriented content, we're going to survive that Q1 slam. And Facebook is desperate for ad real estate. So the better experience for the customers is the best way to give it to them. We want to give them that experience on platform and before they actually purchase. You will be rewarded for it. So to prepare for Q1 in 2020, it's very close, less than a month away. We want to be using that user-centric and that problem-oriented sales content at the top of the funnel. And then we want to be coupling that with the user-centric, user-generated content, what we call the pre-purchase experience. Plug that into the middle and the bottom of the funnel, and that works extremely well. And because it's engaging and delivers a great on-platform experience, that in conjunction with the ad systems is going to allow you to spend multiple 5 figures per day, even as a novice media buyer, as we do with the new members that join our team. So guys, if you want to get the systems, you can go to bit.ly/affiliateworldasia-19, AWA-19, hit that link and you'll be able to just download that whole thing. And that's it from me. Thanks so much. If you do want to work with us, you can go to dimnico.com/scale, and we've got a short film there that's pretty funny. So cheers, guys.